Hello, and a very, very warm welcome back from hiatus to 90 Day Fiancé, your fourth, fifth, well, we've probably slid a little now, eighth, ninth, or 10th favorite reality TV recap podcast. My name is Michelle, and joining me today is the Sister Wives professor himself. It's Dr. Adam. Welcome.
Hello, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
I could not be more excited. I'm a huge fan of your work. So is Robin. So is everybody at the Blighty Day family. I know you've done some collabs already with Ace and Caitlin and with Amy and Amanda. Now, Amanda is our professor emeritus of Sister Wiffery, so she usually covers Sister Wives with me. How have you found these choppy podcasting waters?
It's been it's been great. It's been like I want to say it has been a little bit overwhelming in a good way. The Sister Wives fandom, as you know, and reality TV fandoms in general, but Sister Wives especially, the fandom is very passionate. They're very intelligent. They know way more about the show than I did, and I thought I knew everything. And so it's been such a relief and such a joy to be accepted by fellow podcasters such as yourselves, who I listen to and who I admire, but especially just the people willing to try something a little bit different, because there are so many really, really excellent reality TV podcasters out there creating amazing content. And so for people to make space for me was very kind and really exciting. I'm not big on attention. I want attention until I get it, and then I go, this is weird. Not bad. And I'm not complaining, but I've been learning to adjust to it. And my point is the kindness of everyone has been so appreciated.
I think the people who cover reality TV in general are so community minded, which is really interesting because the stuff that we cover isn't necessarily. And I know, our limited experience with Sister Wives, because I actually didn't start watching. I've gone back to the beginning, but I didn't actually start watching until season 16 or 17.
Right on.
I'm not sure what moved the needle for me, where I felt like I had to kind of start at that point. I know what put me off the show in the beginning, because I've always been aware of it. And also it started around the time, I think I had already been in London for 2 years by the time that it started. And it's very different now, but it was pre-streaming. And so we were very limited in what American shows we got, particularly reality shows.
Right.
And I just didn't want to watch. I was a nanny all through doing my undergraduate and my postgraduate law degree. And I didn't want to watch anything with kids in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I didn't. So so it was nice. It's not that I don't love children, because I do. And I've especially come to love these children. But at the time, I just sort of thought like, I really don't want to see this nice family, perfect family kind of sell their way of life that I fundamentally don't agree with. And you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong about the whole premise of the show. But what was your kind of lead into it? How did you discover it?
Well, I think like every man of a certain age, I got really into Sister Wives. It just happens. Every guy hits a certain age and goes, no. It's funny. I can't help myself. I was working on my master's degree, and I was living this, Michelle, I was living this kind of weird, like self-imposed monk-like existence. I've never talked about this on a podcast. I quit all alcohol. I quit caffeine. I went like like I didn't like call myself vegan, but like I did a vegan diet. I shaved my head. I had some personal tragedies that I won't get into in terms of
Mm,
losing a friend very early on in his life, and that was kind of my way of coming to terms with it. And so I was in this master's degree, and as even if you are partnered with somebody doing, especially a postgraduate degree, doing any kind of degree, but a postgraduate degree especially can be very isolating because you're so
yeah.
like immersed in this stuff and it's so high stakes. And so I spent a lot of time in my apartment grading papers, writing my thesis, doing whatever, and watching whatever reality TV was on Netflix. And I wanted something light, so I binged like 15 seasons of Cake Boss. No, for real. I had a system where I would write 3 pages of my thesis, and then to reward myself, I would watch one episode of Cake Boss. This is in like my acknowledgments of my master's thesis. It's like also thanks to Cake Boss. But
That's incredible.
yeah, how did I stay single? It's a mystery. And so I did that, and do you want to come over, have no fun, and watch Cake Boss? How does Adam not have a girlfriend? No. So, and then I ran out of Cake Boss, and then the Netflix algorithm kicked out Sister Wives. And I was kind of like you. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to watch this gross dude, like, not appreciate 3 women. And just, I didn't, but I really just kind of, it's like, well, it's that or no TV, and no TV can't happen. So let me try this. And so I just was like, and this was 2011. So it was, I think they were only streaming the first season, maybe season two. And I loved the big house. And I thought that would be
Hmm.
like the entire show in perpetuity, by the way, of like, how do we navigate the big house? How do we bring in Rabine and all that stuff into the big house? And I loved it. I thought, wow, this is really cool. I liked that the wives were not shrinking violets doing whatever this awful man told them to do. They were only doing part of what this awful man told them to do. So that was refreshing.
They were only doing what they had to do to, um, to gain favor from. I like to think of Cody in the context of, I'm a huge, huge folklore fan, and I'm really into ghosts and aliens and all that stuff. But the one through line with all the work that I've done, and like you, I've done every job under the sun. Like I'm always blown away by the fact that I'll make sort of like a hospitality related joke, and my husband won't get it at all because
Yeah,
he's had a very, he basically went from university right into journalism and then right into TV production, and
sure.
but he never worked in hospitality. And I'm always like, what? Like you've never like been a bar back or waited tables or anything, but like that experience is so singular and so unique. I think whatever, like obviously it's different when you're operating at a different level and doing 5-star dining and stuff, but the sort of the grunt work is the same everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I
I,
don't know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, I
okay.
think of a lot of times I think that this story, if you look at it through the lens of like shared mythology and old folklore, this really is probably closer to Bluebeard's castle than anything else. If you want to look at Rabine through a sympathetic lens, you can think this is a guy who promised her everything, provided that she not go into this one room. And boy, did she go into that room.
It's such a monkey's paw, isn't it? Of fame and fortune, and everyone knows. For Cody too, like everyone loves me, or well, everyone knows me, but nobody loves me.
Yep.
I'm one of I don't not one of the most famous people on the planet, but come on, certainly more famous than the vast majority of people will be. And for what? He's the most publicly divorced man on the planet right now.
I
I'm
loved
not
it.
even trying to be funny. It is funny, but it's like, it just is what it is. It's like, I've mentioned this on other podcasts. Like, can you imagine psychologically knowing people create entire Etsy shops to celebrate you being divorced? It's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been divorced, and I think uh, there are times, there were times when I was scraping myself off the floor spiritually, psychologically,
Of course, yeah,
emotionally,
of course.
physically, even, and my ex-husband was an addict and an alcoholic and struggled with all of that, and it's a nightmare. And I think if somebody made an Etsy shop about the things I said and did and felt during that time, I it would take me a very long time to laugh at it or
Yeah,
find
yeah,
it at all entertaining.
yeah.
Speaking of which, and creating shops around quotes, I thought it would be a fun warm up game to play. I know you're a fan of The
Yes,
Office, as am I, as are many of our listeners, and I'm with you in that's my comfort show too, and always
yes.
has been. I remember when I had like a video iPod, that was the only show that I put on it, and I would fall asleep to those episodes, and even, living in shared housing and everything, it was such an escape. So I will be very curious to know. I've got it up now,
I'm so excited. You told me about this ahead of time, so
and
everyone
I
knows. I'm
did.
so excited.
Yes, I did. I did warn you. So Amanda got some of these wrong, and she's our professor emeritus of Sister Wifery. So
Yeah.
don't feel too bad if
Well,
you
I'm
get.
not going to insult her because I can't take that kind of hurt, so that she'll bring down. So no comment.
Okay. Easy one first. This is not the America I learned about in high school.
What are my options? It's Sister Wives or The Office.
Yeah.
That is Robine.
Yes, it is.
I thought I would nail this. I'm already second guessing myself. I'm like, am
Are you
I can
really?
see? Because the pressure is on. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, no, I can do this.
Okay.
Okay, come on. I've talked in front of thousands of people. I can do this. Okay.
Sometimes I can add a little timer if you want to make you feel even more
Oh yeah, that's great.
pressure. We can.
What I need in my life, Michelle, is more anxiety. That's what my therapist tells me. You need to be more stressed.
Sometimes the clothes at Gap Kids are too flashy, so I'm forced to go to the American Girl store and order clothes for large colonial dolls.
That, that is Miss Angela from The
Yes,
Office.
it is.
I couldn't get through it without laughing. Okay.
Uh, all he ever wants from me anymore are Rice Krispies.
That is my wife. No, not only. That is right. I'm crying. I'm actually crying. Okay. Uh, that is Robine. Or no, that's from Sister Wives. It's got to be.
Yes, it's
Was that
Mary.
Mary? That was Mary.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, that was Mary.
I
Obviously.
don't I don't have the person that it's,
Okay.
and bear in mind I've had to pick ones. These might not be y'all's favorite Office or Sister Wives quotes, but it's very difficult to find one without someone else's name in it.
Real quick, can I tell you that scene where before she reveals that it's a Rice Krispie turkey, and she's like, "I know you said not to make a turkey, but I did." The look on Robine's face, I about threw up from secondhand social anxiety.
I know.
It was so. I was like, I can't, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like It felt like it was like Scott's Tots, but in real life. Like, I can't do this. Did you really? Did you really make a turkey? Like, please,
know,
Mary,
I
you're
know.
so close to your Margarita Hot Girl Summer redemption arc. Don't screw it up yet. And then she brought out like the most adorable, turkey with the candy falling out the ass that I've ever seen. But it was just. When I thought it was a real turkey, I was like, I'm like sweating, like I was so stressed.
Yeah, that was, as an empath, that
Yeah,
was really difficult to watch.
yeah.
Um, I don't hate it. I just don't like it at all, and it's terrible.
Why do you keep sounding like now? That sounds like my son. It sounds like you're just quoting my family. That is
That's
real
my
quick.
son too.
Yeah, my 3 year old he had to drink some Pedialyte because he wasn't feeling well the other day, and he sets down the cup and he looks at my wife. He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to take a pause on this," which is fantastic. That one is from The Office.
Yes, it is. Well spotted.
Michael Scott, I think. I think.
Yes, it is. I'm not a poo poo head.
Can we just do this every week? Could this be all we ever do?
Yes.
I don't want to
Yeah,
do my podcast
absolutely.
anymore. I just want to do this. Like, forget it. Uh, that is that's Cody. That's Cody Brown. That is Cody Brown.
Yes, it is.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
that's the pink elephant in the room.
Oh God, I feel like it could be both. Oh, oh no. Oh no. Come on, man. You've been training for this half your life. Come on. Oh, mother of pearl. Oh, Jiminy H. Cricket. What? I swear to God, that's been said on both. I know it hasn't, but I swear to God, that's been said on both shows. Sister Wives?
Yes, very good.
Oh.
Well done.
Whew. Okay. Whew.
Uh,
Let me get a candy bar after this.
I know. I'll
Give myself a little treat.
Yeah. My philosophy is basically this, and this is something I live by and always have and always will. Don't ever, for any reason, do anything to anyone for any reason, no matter what, no matter where or who you're with, or where you're going, or where you've been ever, for any reason whatsoever.
Now you're just quoting my dissertation. That's very rude. I don't know how you found it, and I'm not mad, but I'm a little bit disappointed. That's got to be The Office.
It is.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I had no idea. It's oh man, because that sounded like Rabine. Like,
I'm sure she said words to that effect.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so 3 more to go.
Oh God. Okay.
For my money, these are the most difficult. Let's talk about where we are, not what I said.
Oh, that's Cody. Okay. So
Yes, it is.
those of you on my Patreon, it's paywalled, but I did do an in-depth analysis of the whatever. I can't remember if it was the talk back or the look back. I apologize, everybody. But some people have said to me sometimes, like, Dr. Adam, we want you to be a little looser and be more. You want to hear me just lose my mind? I just ranted and raved about what just gaslighting manosphere of like feeling erasure garbage that is, especially as a communication person. Like what you speak becomes reality. Like you speak relational truths into reality. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that just I'm gonna get 2 candy bars now. Okay, let's move on. You can get a whatchamacallit.
And I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
That is The Office.
Yes, it is.
That's such a good one.
Final 2.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. This is the last one. Okay.
Oh no. Okay, that's fine.
All right, I'll throw in a gimme because I just love this quote. This is a goat rodeo of epic proportions.
That was Sister Wives, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
it was.
Oh my gosh! So did I beat Amanda? Am I the champion?
Yeah, you've gotten every single one right.
Oh, Amanda, if you're listening to this,
Sorry,
I'm
Amanda.
sorry. You are the queen. I could never approach.
And finally, it's not about being the favorite. It's about gaining favor.
All right, I might have gotten cocky too soon. Hoisted by my own petard. Let me think. Sister Wives?
You are absolutely right. And that was the hardest question.
That was hard.
Because that
That
could
was
so easily be. I mean, technically, as I explained to you yesterday, the game I played with Amanda was Cody Brown or Michael Scott.
yeah. You made it easier on me, to be fair to her. You
I
made it
did. I did a little bit, you know, but that's my internalized misogyny
yeah,
coming out.
sure. Well, I put my big boy panties on for a reason, so it's okay.
So, congratulations. You
Thank you.
have won the game. Very exciting.
That was so fun.
I'm so glad. I was toying with another game and I was talking to my husband, Robin, about this. Though I appreciate you using Robine's proper name.
Yeah. Doesn't everyone call her that? I thought that was the proper pronunciation.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
If you're Robin with a Y, you're Robine.
Yeah.
Um,
She's been
and
robbing the rest of that family for years.
right?
Ha ha.
So the game, and this one I don't have fully fleshed out yet. So I'm
Okay.
interested in what listeners think and what you might think. So we used to play games, in high school and college, these sort of like icebreaker, getting to know you things where, you
Yeah, what
know,
kind of terrible teacher would make someone do
right?
pulling on my collar? Y'all can't see.
Um,
Sorry.
Actually, my favorite one of those was a game that is derived from a British TV series that I think was called Room 101 or Room 1, something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You put something that you actually viscerally hate into the box. And especially, it works particularly well if you're in a small tutorial group because you go, I'm putting in spiders. This next person is putting in spiders and dust. It's that kind of thing. This is nothing like that game. This is more like
It's like, what are you
never.
going to have me do?
No.
Because I'm
This one,
100% up for it. I just am curious.
well, maybe we can find the answer together because I like the two answers being just sitting here or figuring stuff out. So my first thought would be, like, have you ever kissed two different people in the same night? Just sitting here is the no. Figuring things out is the yes. And I thought that doesn't quite work out. Could it be areas of interest or like, potential social minefields? So do you know what I mean? Because it could be like international politics, just sitting here, as in I know nothing about it and wouldn't try to enter a discussion, or figuring things out.
Yeah.
I talk about that regularly. I think about that regularly.
Can I make a
But I
volley
don't know
that
if
if you
I.
have like expertise, you could refer to that as doing the minuses and the pluses?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Or I'm the go-to gal, like
Yeah, so I don't really know where I am with that game, but I do like it as
I love
a
it. Can I
as a
double
frame.
back to something you said earlier that I really wanted to touch upon, which was
Yes,
your
absolutely.
you alluded to an interest in the paranormal. Do you watch ghost hunting shows?
Um, I used to, uh, not with any great fervor. I'm not going to name any names, but there are certain people who have found prominence in that community whose methods I don't respect at all.
Are you
And
referring to Zach Bagans?
I might be. I might
Okay.
be.
Because
Yeah.
okay, so this is weird. I bring this up because in my head I was pit because this is what I do for fun. I was pitching in my head a crossover because I'm convinced that Lizzie's Heritage Inn is like hella haunted. And I'm
Yes.
just picturing the Ghost Adventures, like Dude Bro graphic tee crew just rolling in, like, here at this polygamist inn, I'm Zach Bacon, because that's how he talks.
Yeah.
Like, I never believed in ghosts until I went to this creepy polygamist house. And, like, Mary's just, like, wine hammered on the couch, like, what? What? There's, like, wine drunk ex polygamist, bro. Not good. It's just all it just, come on. Like, somebody call me. You want money? I'm a license to print money. I'm a bad idea machine. What can I say?
Can you imagine? At Lizzie's Heritage Inn, the
Just walking around like,
energy.
Abraham, you in here? You want to get married? Why don't you marry my fist, bro? Come at me, ghost. You know,
That's what I don't
oppress
understand.
me, bro. Take away my rights, bro. You know who's not going to keep sweet? Me. Come at me. You know, keep sweet, keep dead,
I
bro. Leave him alone.
Yeah, that's not
We've
a
lost
tack
your
I
entire audience. I'm
particularly.
so sorry.
No, I promise you, we have not. If anything, it's the opposite. We've brought in a new fold.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this about me, but during the pandemic, I had a job as a tarot card reader and like a telephone psychic.
That's amazing.
I Now I don't think I have any particular gift. I'm not the kind of autistic that can like, recite random dates and tell you what baseball game was lost or won on that day and who all was involved. I can't do math to save my life. I'm not that kind of autistic, but I think because I learned everything from about people and about communication
Yes.
from
Yes.
watching TV,
Sure.
from I mean, certainly that was my biggest influence because I spent a lot of time alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But from kind of having to have that laser focus on how other people communicated and reacted, I think I I do have a talent for it. And I don't not believe in psychics. I just or ghosts or anything like that, but I think it's a skill that you develop just like anything else, and I do
Yeah.
think that anyone can do it. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm proof positive.
I don't know if you
Like,
feel this way. I've always described being on the spectrum as like I went from a long period of my life thinking I didn't understand people until I realized I actually understand other people better than almost anyone. It's just people don't understand me and I don't
yeah.
know how to get them to. It's like I understand you maybe better than you do, but I can't figure out how to get you to understand me. And I so appreciate what you said about like, being on the spectrum and like I can't do math in my head. I can't memorize things. Like I'm the kind of spectrum kid that like if they change the graphics on like the Pop Tarts box, I get really upset for a month and a half.
Yeah.
Like it's not fun, folks. It's not. It's got its benefits, but it's like I'm not. Yeah, I'm not the superpowery kind. But I do. To your point, I guess that's not true. I do feel like I don't know if it's. I don't know if I came by it naturally, or to your point, if I felt like so much pressure to develop that skill that wasn't necessarily all that deficient to begin with. I sort of overextended my ability to read people, which is part of what I do on the
Oh,
podcast.
we
Right? Is I
froze
just
for a moment.
I've had people ask me like, "How do you know how to do this?" And I go, "Well, it's like anything else. I've just study and practice. I don't come by this like natural gift of reading people. I pay a lot of attention, and I've contextualized over years and years and years because I felt like I had to catch up when I kind of didn't. It's kind of weird.
No, I completely understand. And I think in a weird way, hang on, I'm just going to adjust my level there. Um, I think in a weird way, that's what drew me to reality TV. Is it actually has helped me so much in understanding responses to trauma and also for those of you in the know, you know that I've been in treatment for trauma for some time, and I was recently doing like an outpatient program, and it was really fascinating. And I thought of you a lot, Dr. Adam, because I learned that so many interesting things. But you've heard of like the body keeps score is something that was designed for professionals, for therapists to read. It's not for people who are traumatized, because it's pretty diffuse and kind of overwhelming. But just the massive impact that trauma has in how we communicate with people and how we interface with others and how we process conflict. And so, for example, you can see in each of the sister wives, like, I mean, I don't want to be like diagnosing people or doing name that trauma.
I understand, but you can infer based upon your own experience. I think that's valid.
Yeah. So like for Rabine, she immediately...
Sorry. It gets me every time. Go ahead.
It's okay. For Rabine, so there's... And look, I am no expert other than through my lived experience and what I've learned in trauma cult, as I affectionately call it. But we have these trauma responses that if we don't kind of resolve the trauma and process it properly, we go to these places our entire life.
Right.
Now, you've heard fight, flight, freeze. Maybe you've heard of appease. Now, interestingly enough, and I'm sure there's another one I'm forgetting, but part of appease, a little subsection of it, is obey. Mm. And so, sorry, the other one I'm missing is cry for help. So Rabine's experience, whenever she gets triggered, is she goes straight to cry for help every time. Correct. She can't remove herself from the situation, especially when it has nothing to do with her. Mm-hmm. No one else is allowed to have a bigger emotion than she does. No one's emotions are more important than hers.
Right. She cannot abide. She cannot abide, and I don't necessarily say this judgmentally, but just as an evaluative, she cannot abide guilt and responsibility for other people's
That's
pain.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, and to be fair, and this is what my podcast is like, folks, and this is what I do. To be fair, that is so hard. I have a visceral, physiological negative reaction to knowing I upset someone, whether it's my kids or my spouse, or just if I don't do the right thing in traffic. And so there's this oftentimes natural to some, and everybody has this to some degree, the desire to do mental gymnastics to wave away your culpability and other people's pain. And Rabine is such a clear, not Robin, I'm sure he's not, but Rabine is such a clear example of somebody that just cannot live with guilt for other people's pain. You see it from early season 1 with the wedding, I picked the dress moment, where she goes, well, I didn't want you to know that. It's actually really hard for me that you found out about that.
Ugh, hard for me.
And I've talked about this, and you could say, and I would completely accept it if she had said, look, it was not my intention to hurt you. It was not my intention. Like, that sucks. And I'm sorry that you got hurt in this process. That was not my intention. It is still kind of not a great apology, but it's something. You know what I mean? But that doesn't even happen.
Right. And I think for Janelle, and I agree with you that Janelle and Christine are the head and the heart of the family, respectively. I think Janelle goes to shame, which is my go-to trauma response.
Yeah, me too.
And it's so deeply, and Janelle and I are very, 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 very different. But I think it's so deeply ingrained that she's not consciously aware that that's what she's doing. Yeah. But she compartmentalizes her own pain and her own experience so that other people don't have to feel bad.
Right.
And 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 Cody knows this, whether he knows this kind of on a conscious level or not, I don't know, but he knows that he can manipulate Janelle by shaming her. He
Yeah.
knows that's which is why the first thing he goes to is criticizing her parenting.
Right.
That's going for the jugular, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
that's
that's
an
the
area.
worst thing you can do to a parent,
Oh,
to a
absolutely.
partner, to your partner who you parent with, to tear down. It's just no business. Like, you can address, to be fair, you can address those things constructively when you need to, but I'm talking about when your kitchen's sinking in a fight and you're just looking for something to hurt somebody. There's a difference
Yeah.
between bringing up like, hey, I need you as my partner to adjust your parenting in this way. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, just ad hominem attacking. And I think to your point, something I recognize in myself and in Janelle is I think Janelle, she never talks about this overtly, but she kind of uses coded language for it when she talks about her body presentation and other things in her life.
Yep.
Janelle is very big on, Janelle has learned to frame things that I would argue she shouldn't as, well, this is what I deserve. This is the most I deserve to get.
Yep.
And you sort of see
Yep.
that throughout this experience. And so I am interested if, and it's a big if, and when Janelle partners with someone else in the future, what is that contrast going to be like? And I hope if she does choose to do that, and if she does, I hope she finds someone who is really like stoked to be with her. It's like, wow, you're just this great person. Like, what do you want? What do you want to do? I wonder what her reaction would be to that.
Yeah, I that's the thing. I think she's so and you know what? I think Mary is responsible for a lot of that conditioning too. That early
A lot of shaming
shaming
early
of
on. Yeah. Yep.
you're lazy,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Lazy. That's the other worst thing you can say to her is so yeah, I sort of chafe when people say, "Oh, Janelle doesn't have feelings or only responds to things logically and rationally." Like, no, she just has a different response.
Well, yeah, and when you've
Um,
been told when you do things, you do them wrong, eventually you're going to stop doing them because, okay, if I cannot do this right, why? And so whenever there's like a party or decisions to be made, people make fun of Janelle. Oh, Janelle can't just get in there and do things. It's because Janelle used to, and by Mary, and I'm sure other people was like, no, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And you
yeah,
get to a point where you go, all right, fine, then I'm not going to try because why bother?
and that's why if there's any parenting advice that I feel I have the authority to dispense, it's this. If your kid if you ask your kid to do something, particularly if it's a household chore, don't like withhold your criticism, show praise the effort rather
Yeah,
than the outcome, show them how it can be done differently rather than saying no, that's wrong, that's terrible. Because I think and again, I have no, you know, real logical basis in saying this is just my experience, but it took me a very long time to get my stepson to realize that when criticism from either of us, that it's not you're a bad person who's unworthy of love.
right.
And if you've got sensitive kids, you know that story already. It's really difficult to differentiate those things. And I think for Mary is a more difficult one for me because I think she and Cody are so similar.
Oh
Cody, I
yeah.
think,
Oh yeah.
is motivated by shame, but that's not his immediate response. And when we think about fight or flight, those things don't have to. One way of fighting is avoidance, actually,
Of course.
and neglect. So yeah, it's harder for me to pin down what it is for Cody and Mary because I think they're very much alike. And I know that their sort of go-to is blaming other people, getting angry at other people, but first and foremost, denying whatever is happening.
Yeah, I think that they are very alike. And I've thought about this a lot recently because I think that Mary, throughout the totality of the kind of as cohesive as the Brown family was, like at the height of their cohesion, shall we say, I think Mary, I think likes control because it makes her feel safe. I think
Yep.
I think Cody likes control when he needs to feel validated. I think Cody was always willing to give up control of things that didn't interest him or entertain him or he didn't feel vulnerable about. That's why he liked Janelle, is Janelle would kind of pick up some of the slack of things that just didn't. And this isn't a bad thing in a relationship. Have somebody that picks up the slack and does the things that you're not good at or aren't interested in. Like, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have a partner. It can be a good thing to have a partner that does and is interested in doing the aspects of life that like you're not good at or aren't drawn to. As long as there's a balance there, that can be really good. And that's why I think in a lot of ways Janelle and Cody were maybe the most functional, not the most passionate, but the most functional combination because they were. I don't do the opposites attract thing, but people that complement. There's a difference between being opposites and being complementary. I guess I would say
Yes.
because they had
Yeah.
certain compatibilities, and I think Janelle was the sort of functional, comparatively intellectual space relationally for him, and someone that kind of made this. I people have said this, and I think it's true. Janelle sometimes maybe gets more credit than what we have unearthed demonstrates in terms of the ability to keep things running, and their finances are what they were, but whatever. But Janelle, at least I think in Cody's mind, kept the machine running so Cody could address the million other things that he was overextended with, all these people, all these relationships, none of which really being cultivated to the degree that they should have been because of just the massive amount of demands being put on everybody. And so
No,
you contrast that with Christine, who was just kind of fun, but had to be fun. It's like fun or else, you know what I mean? And we could talk about that if you
yeah.
want, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Christine is, I think she's different now, but
Yeah.
I think she was more of an obey kind of person, you know. Um Probably also living with a lot of shame. Now, what do you think about the marriage to David Woolley? I unfortunately have not clapped eyes on the wedding special, but I'll tell you what I think after you tell me what you think.
Oh, Lord. Um, they got together and got married pretty quick based upon broad societal expectations. That's not bad. Relationships are kind of like gambling. If you put it all on black and you win, you're a genius. If you put it all on black and you lose, you're a moron. It depends
Right?
on if it works.
Yeah.
So who knows? I like their dynamic that I saw. One of the things I liked is that when David speaks to the camera and a talking head with Christine next to him, he never says, Christine does this and looks at the camera. He always looks right at her and goes, you know what I like about you is this.
Mm,
He speaks directly to her. David is not very performative. David, he kind of talks like this, and he's just kind of a natural, not camera ready kind of guy, which I found refreshing, to be honest. I think that he has filled Christine's bucket in a lot of ways. I say this like seemingly every podcast I go on, so I apologize, folks, for being repetitive if you've heard me, but Cody Brown is someone that loves people in the ways that are easiest and most entertaining for him. And Christine, I think, is being loved now in the ways that she needs, not just the ways that David finds easiest or most entertaining. And I think that's great for her. I think she feels really desired. I think she feels really good about herself. Now, you have to have more than that to sustain a long term. You have to have more than that to sustain a long term partnership. You have to. This is why I don't need to tell you this, but this is why long term relationships and marriages are hard. Is it's not about staying the same person you were when you got married or got together. It's about trying to grow in complementary ways. Like, can I create the space for you to grow, and vice versa, where you want to go? And I just say that because that's going to be the test. Can Christine and David do that? Maybe, maybe not. And when you can't do that, that doesn't make people bad people either. Sometimes you try
no.
your best and you can't grow the way each other needs to, and that just happens.
I also think that thank you for that, because I think there's a lot of divorce is still unfairly stigmatized. And I hate it when people say things like failed marriage,
Right.
right? Or framing it in
Yeah.
terms of success or failure, which was, a heavy, heavy part of the rhetoric and the talk around this show was, oh, I failed this, I failed that. Like, no, you had a marriage, you had a family system that worked. Was it what you sold it as? Was it the way that you marketed it? Absolutely not. We know that now. But Cody is somebody like I look at, decades long marriages that end in divorce, and it doesn't, I mean, it makes me sad because divorce is a difficult thing to go through, but that doesn't mean that you failed. It just means,
Right.
like, I heard an aphorism recently that men that women marry men hoping that they'll change, and men marry women hoping they'll never change.
Right.
And I know that's heteronormative and everything, but I think you can apply that um, to any relationship, really. It doesn't always work out that way, but I think it's it's a difficult road to hoe, as it were. My concern for Christine is that I see a lot of myself in her, in that I don't think people recognize this necessarily. Christine is not someone who was ever going to be voluntarily single for a long time.
Right.
Christine needs to be with someone, and her understanding of herself
Yeah.
and self-worth is so closely tied to the role to how she's relating to other people, right?
She's an acts of service person, if you want to use the five love languages kind of
Yes,
terminology.
absolutely. And I'm an acts of service person also, and a quality time person. So I completely understand that. Like, my needs are very similar in a relationship to what hers are. I do wonder what benefit she would have gotten from being single for longer. Uh, David Woolley reminds me of the husband of someone that I know, where I'm constantly sort of looking at that relationship and going, I don't see it.
Hmm.
I don't see it. I mean, look, I think they're very hot for each other. I think they have a wonderful
Yeah.
intimate life.
Yeah.
I myself am not a Disney sexual or a fairy tale sexual. Like, those archetypes don't appeal to me in the slightest. I don't really like stories about women who need rescuing and things like that. So
Sure. Sure.
that whole dynamic is I think that's a very high bar to set for a marriage, that this person saved me. And I worry that any of the ground that she gained in terms of, like, growing up emotionally, and again, sorry, I realize I'm really getting into the weeds here, but any ground that she gained from leaving Cody and
Yeah.
leaving that family, I'm
Yeah.
worried she's going to lose again, but in a different way.
Well, now I am too for the very first time. So thank you for that.
And that's not me being a cynic or a hater, I mean, I would have supported however she wanted to live her life. I don't really understand why they had to get married as soon
I
as they
don't.
did.
I don't think you're giving a minority opinion here, though. To be fair, I think. No, I'm saying this as a compliment to reassure you anyway. Is like I think that yeah. I mean, you look at that and look, it's not colloquial common wisdom for no reason that it's good to create your own foundation of self after any kind of breakup, but especially one that was like the vast majority of your adult life, if not the totality of your adult life. Because if you go from Christine and Cody to even like Christine and David, or Cody and Christine to Christine and David, if you follow me, you're still
Yeah.
and someone else. And so it's scary and it's weird because I was a serial monogamist for years until I wasn't, until I just was like, you know what? I was in a situation, I was kind of describing this to you earlier. I was kind of in a situation where I was in sort of self-imposed academic and interpersonal isolation. And I kind of realized, I'm going to have a weird, tumultuous. I don't know how to say that word.
Tumultuous. Yeah.
Thank you. I read words. I don't say them. Career in front of me. And I don't know if I want to navigate that with a partner, even if I could find one, which I think was relatively mature of me, especially for the time. And so that sort of broke me out of it. But you bring up such a good point where, and touch wood, it won't happen. But at some point, statistically speaking, through the dissolution of a relationship or just the passing of a partner, Christine is likely to be on her own at one point. Now, what is that going to be? Who are you going to be at that point? It's not that dissimilar to when your kids are launched, and you've got to think,
Yeah.
well, who am I? Who are we if we're not co-parenting or if I'm not parenting? I've thought about like if I changed careers or something, like this is who I've been for a big chunk of my life. Who am I going to be if I'm not this? You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
even podcasting, like I haven't been doing it nearly as long as you would, but I'm sure even if you felt it was a healthy thing to not do Blighty Day Fiance anymore, it would be this transition of I'm not Michelle the podcaster anymore. I'm all these other wonderful, important things, but this one part of who I am is just phantom limb kind of thing. Like it's not there. And so I'm
Yeah.
not saying she can't handle it, but I think to your point, sorry, you asked me what time it
No,
is. I tell
no,
you,
no.
you asked me what time it is. I tell you how to build a watch.
I'm the
To your
same
point,
way.
that's a real concern, though. If I were to talk to Christine? This is what I always do. My thought exercise. The questions I would ask her are what you said is. So why get married now? Why not later? Why a relationship now first? Why not later? Just maybe there's a good reason, but and I think the answer would be, well, because I want to, and that's not the worst reason, but there's got to be more than that.
No, and it I think one of the and I am a serial monogamist and have been for most of my life as well, and have kind of gone from relationship to relationship. And one gift that my divorce gave me, and I was subsequently in a relationship after that was 5 years, which is a lot when you're in your late 20s and early 30s. Those are like
Absolutely.
really big changes, and it's enough
You're
time
not
to,
kidding.
become a part of each other's families and really enmeshed. And also he was in med school, so that was a whole other dimension to it. And so one of the gifts that divorce and being single for a period of time gave me was that I remembered who I was before I was in either of those relationships.
Yeah.
And Robin, my husband, was in a similar position. When we met, I was determined that was the last date I was going to go on, and then I was going to stop dating for a while. And it turned out to be the last first date I ever went on, but it was not, I didn't intend for it to happen that way. But we both met. He was out of a 20-year marriage. He's 10 years older than me. Had my beautiful stepson, who I didn't meet, for an appropriate amount of time, and who decides what he calls me. He's not told what he calls me,
You didn't sit him down with a picture and go, "Who's that?" Oh, just the cold sweat I break into as a stepchild myself. I don't have one, but
Oh,
I am one. Oh, just I love my mom's husband. He's a wonderful person. He's not my father. I don't need him to be, and I never did. And I'm not saying if that's wrong to do. I just mean idiosyncratically for me.
right.
If that had happened naturally, that would have been great. But he's no less important to me because we didn't have that. And so to watch that be forced is just barfy.
It's difficult. It's difficult on kids no matter what age. But Robin and I, the point that I am finally getting to is that Robin and I came to each other kind of as we were, like, kind of at our true essence. Like, do you know what I mean? And
You were.
so
Can I cuss on your podcast? Is that okay?
yeah, of course.
You were both out of fucks.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
That's a great place. I'm not kidding. The problem with me is when I sound like I'm joking, that's when I'm telling the truth. That's such a great place to be relationally, to start a relationship. Is I'm going to be. This is me. I'm not saying I won't get better, but this is where I'm at. And if we're going to do this, it's going to have to be worth doing. Like I'm not going to do it just because I'm afraid to not do it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And so for that reason, I worry a lot about I shouldn't say I'm worried. Of course I'm worried because these are all parasocial relationships for me. But I
That's fair.
think a lot about the brown girls especially, um, who all seem to sort of look, if you want to get married,
You can say
str-
it. We all know it. They get
yeah,
married
okay.
young to older men,
Yeah, and I
which
just
isn't
think it's
necessarily
really
bad. But
no, but I mean, I got married very young because I didn't know who I was and I was kind of like, oh, I need an identity real fast. Like I need to create that demarcation. Like I love my family. My family of origin. I'm very close to them, but I was just really I thought that getting married would give me some kind of like magic out of the box adulthood that I was struggling to achieve by other means. Like, I wasn't settled in a career. I was still doing my undergraduate degree at that point. Um, and yeah, and particularly when like Janelle is talking about Maddie and her husband, whose name I always forget,
Caleb.
Caleb.
And I want
Yeah.
to correct myself. They do not all marry older men. I apologize. Somebody's going to ding me on that as they should, so I will correct myself. That was a overgeneralization.
But I think about but they're still becoming mothers like at the same age that their mothers became mothers. And I don't know if that's ultimately great. And I wonder how much the falling apart of the Brown original sort of hive has to do with that.
Oh
Like did
gosh, I hadn't
they
even thought of that.
like were they vulnerable to that because they needed to define themselves by other ways, and certainly for their generation, for like who the ones that we call the older kids, for their generation that's extremely difficult economically, socioeconomically. I notice as well, and this hasn't escaped the notice of anyone ever, that Logan and Aspen don't have children as of yet. I mean, Lord knows they have plenty of time. But I think so much of what happens after leaving that family
Yeah.
is sort of defined by or motivated this desire to escape it. And maybe Christine is just in that camp. I mean, maybe Christine is doing what not what McKelty did, because and I'll come out and say it. I'm not a fan of McKelty. I'm not a fan of Tony. I think there's something going on there that isn't quite right. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I just mean the way that Mykelti talks to her mother, I think, is really wrong.
There's a mean-spiritedness. There's a nastiness to it.
Yeah.
And I talk about this too in my podcast when I talk about the wedding specials, because I was making space for her choices up to a point where I finally kind of lost my patience with it, because I think that in that instance especially, we could talk about this for an entire hour, but Mykelti was so wounded by Christine's reaction to her telling her she was going to get married. Mykelti wanted the same reaction Madison got, and she got the polar opposite. And you could see Mykelti just hurt, trying to coach her mother, like, your little girl's getting married. Like, this is what I need, Mom. This is what I need you to say. And oh, good God, like, as someone who identifies with Mykelti when she was younger, not as an adult, but that just like that please validate this for me.
Yeah.
I need whether she should have done it or not. She had that need and it wasn't met. My point is, when Christine got married, you can see Mykelti's been carrying that baggage, and she is letting it out passive aggressively, inappropriately. The entire time. And now you can't control what you feel. You can only try to control what you do. So I don't begrudge Mykelti's pain or her negative feelings. I do begrudge the way she chose to air them out in that setting. And so, yeah, I do feel like, I think you make a really great point in that if it's kind of like Christine, right? Is, well, I'm a person from a family. And if my family has fallen apart, I need to have a family, because I'm the person with the family. You know what I mean? And so, and I think with their culture, there's this push to mature before you're ready, especially for young women to have children.
Yes.
Potentially before you're ready. I want to be careful, just because, as a man talking about this, I try to be very careful how I talk about women's choices, right? Or what they do with their bodies. But, you look at it, so many women in that culture have come out and going like, yeah, I was pushed to have kids too soon. I was pushed to have too many kids. Just forget about it. Like, it's out there. I'm not pulling this out of nowhere. And so that rush because you're so restricted and you can't dip a toe into maturity. You're either a child or you're an adult. And how do you unlock adulthood? Well, you get married, then you can have sex, then you can do all these things that a lot of other people get to steadily, hopefully, with consent, ease themselves into as they become ready. That's your hope for my hope for people with those experiences, I guess I'm trying to say. And so that's not really possible.
I think purity culture,
oh good God,
is responsible, which is another thing I could talk about for hours, but I think that's another social pressure that they have to live with. And it's really interesting to me. I had a high school classmate who, very beautiful, very talented, incredibly bright and smart and lovely, as so many Mormons are. And she went to Stanford, and she got married when she was 19, and she has, I don't know how many kids now. I think she's probably 5 or 6 kids deep. And every day, I think, like, I've heard people say things like, "Oh, what was the point of going to Stanford if you're just going to be a mom? If you're just going to be a mom?" Yeah. And I thought, God, in that culture, and again, forgive me for speaking out of turn, LDS listeners, but in cultures that place a lot of pressure on young women to marry and become mothers early, where you go to college, what you study, if you go to college, is likely the only choice that you're ever going to make for yourself.
Yeah.
And probably the last choice that you make for yourself that, isn't centering your husband or your children. And I think that's got to be incredibly difficult. I would have loved for Christine to, and I know there's a limit to what she can do because she has truly, so, she couldn't move to a completely different city with no support, and she could, she has to be kind of careful in that way.
They have to do 50-50 time, yeah, obviously.
The made up 50-50 time. I would have loved to see her like have a travel companion that wasn't a love interest where she could
Yeah.
just experience something else.
Where's her Jen, is what you're saying. Where is your Jen?
You know, I didn't Jen annoyed me. I've always said the extra N's are for it's JE not necessary in this scene. But when she rode for Mary in the talkback and
Oh, I
called
flipped out.
out
I flipped out.
all of that bullshit, I was like, wow, Jen, you have not only earned your seat at the
Yeah.
table, you get a free meal too, because
And,
holy shit.
and she did not push Mary when Mary
Nope.
said things that Jen clearly didn't think was accurate. She said, okay, and kind of contextualized it. Like that, and I can't speak to the totality of Jen as a person. Anybody listening to this probably knows more about Jen than I do. But and I mean that as a compliment to everyone else. But in that moment, that was such a masterclass in being gently supportive and gently constructive on things that maybe weren't entirely accurate. And really, I was impressed. Yeah, with that, I can't speak to anything else. But
That's being a good friend. I mean, I can't even be that kind of friend. I try really hard, but the if I'm less invested in the person, like I my best friend from childhood has made many choices that and she won't listen to this, so it's fine. But the charitable way of saying it would be that I haven't agreed with her trajectory,
yeah,
and I had to learn the hard way that when you basically when you come from your intention doesn't matter if the other person experiences it as shaming and
yeah,
judgment.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter that you care. You can't do that to people and still expect to be in their lives. And she is still in my life, fortunately. But I don't react to some of the things that I used to react to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I've learned to kind of like if she was ever hurt or if her kids were ever in danger, I think I would have to take a pretty hard line. But apart from that, I'm aware that if she stops sharing with me, it undermines everything that I'm trying to do ultimately, which is to be there for her and her kids.
Sure. Yeah, I do. I don't know. It's one of the, it's like I said, if Christine and David live happily ever after, then it was a brilliant move. Congratulations. If they don't, and if they don't, you know what? You know what? No, I'm going to push back on myself here. Even if it's a temporally limited relationship, maybe Christine is just going to get a whole bunch out of this relationship and go, you know what? I'm worthy of being loved. You know what? This man was hardcore horned up for me, which was great. Well, she deserves that. I know I'm being silly, but she
No, she
deserves that.
she absolutely does. And not to go mining too far into into my own past, but I was I am convinced that the universe or the God of my understanding put this man in my path not long after I had separated from my first husband, who was there for a good time, not a long time. He was about to do a PhD program at Stanford, weirdly enough, but was an American living in London. And he was so open hearted and honest and loving and I didn't we wouldn't have worked out in the long term, but he showed me a very good time in multiple ways. And he gave me the confidence that I needed to feel
Yeah,
newly reassured in
yeah,
myself and who I was as a woman and all of these things that I had been. And not that anybody needs validation for a man, but in that area, I do think you kind of need what we used to call in high school a boy hug if you're a heterosexual gal, or a homosexual guy or non binary person or whoever. Like, you need that kind of affirmation. When you've been told that you're unattractive and you find someone who celebrates your body, that's transformative.
Yeah. Yeah. And not everybody wants that, but if you do, there's no shame in it, I guess is the point, right? If
Yeah.
that kind of thing isn't a part of your life, great. But for a lot of people, especially if you've been made to feel like you have less or no worth in that regard or any other regard, being desired physically, like that's not a crime. That's not wrong. That's not vain wanting that. Like that's completely okay, completely natural, just like it's completely natural. Like some people don't feel this way and that's okay too, but a lot of people want to like looking at the person that they're with. That's not a crime. It shouldn't be the totality of someone else's value to you by any means, but it's also just fun, you know, and that's okay. We're taught, women especially, I don't need to tell you this, but just, I'm not explaining this to the audience. I'm acknowledging that I know it. And I hope that comes through. But women are made to feel so much shame about their own bodies, about their own empowerment through sexuality, you know, be passively sexualized, do not ever be sexual, all that stuff, you know, and so it's just perfectly okay to me as an outsider if what Christine gets out of this is finite but valuable. Because we as human beings have, because we're so aware subconsciously of our finite existence, you know what I mean? And I'm getting kind of metaphysical here, but I have a point.
Mm-hmm.
We become obsessed with permanence, the illusion of permanence. If I'm in love, I will
Right.
be in love forever. If I love my
Mm-hmm.
job, I will do this job forever. If I have this hobby, it will be my hobby. If you are my best friend, you will be my BFF. You will be my best friend forever. And if not, I have failed. If I do not, my body or my face doesn't look this way forever, I failed. If my marriage doesn't last forever, I failed. And none of that's true. None of that's
That's
true.
right. And I think that's why Cody and Robine
Sorry,
have
this kills
have
me every time.
so I think that's why they struggle so much with the dissolution of the family. I firmly refute and rebuke the argument that this is what they wanted. They wanted this to happen.
Oh no, not
These
at all.
are
Yeah, I don't think so.
these are two people who are more black and white in their thinking and averse to nuance and averse to uncertainty. And I think the reason why Cody pushes this, and I'm certainly not the first person to say this and won't be the last, Cody's inability to deal with nuance and Rabine's inability to deal with nuance
Yeah.
is like, can you imagine if they were given the X-Files and it was them out exploring, these uncertain outcomes? I think they would just, that it wouldn't make for a very good viewing. I don't think they'd make good investigators.
Yeah, it's nuance, and I think honestly, I think it's inability to tolerate inconvenience.
Yeah, but a specific kind of inconvenience. Um, an in, I think what they see as inconvenient is the diffuseness of emotions that come
Sure.
up. How can I hate someone that I loved?
Yeah.
How can I be so angry at someone who used to make me happy? How can we be angry now when we were happy before? Well, then
Yeah.
we can't. So then we can't have been happy before.
Yeah.
All of this reframing that they do is because they have this constant equation in their head of if this, then that. If this is true now, then it
Sure.
can't have been true before.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in hearing where you think this dynamic between them is, whether it's headed for a change, whether they're like, how are they going to define themselves? Two people who are, and as you've pointed out and explored, one person who, and forgive me because I'm sure this is a trigger word for everybody, one person who came to the family cap in hand in her mind, begged to be included, went through the process of acculturation successfully or otherwise. The two people the two people besides Mary who worked the hardest to maintain this facade that we all instinctively knew was crumbling. Where do they go from here?
I think I short answer is I don't know. I'm not a predictor. I say this all the
Mm-hmm.
time. I'm good at analyzing what I see. I'm very bad at predicting what will happen as things go forward. They will have to find new identities. My biggest concern is if the show ever ends. Who is Cody Brown going to be without this show? This show is Cody Brown. He's Cody Brown, the guy with the TV show. He used to be Cody Brown, the guy with the wives. He doesn't have that, but at least he still has the TV show, as far as I know. It's like when your kids move
Ugh.
out. It's like when you change jobs. It's like when you move to a different country. You have to go, okay, who is Michelle now? Who is Adam now? Who is Cody now? Who do I want to be and who can I be with the resources available to me? You either do that, you either expand or you contract, right? Your world either becomes bigger and different or becomes smaller, harsher, and more negative. And you see that with, we were talking about this off recording, but you see that with online culture, where you will see the people whose worlds have become so small that any change is intolerable. Like, I cannot tolerate any further change because I have not reacted to the loss of the world as I knew it by embracing something different. And I understand that. I'm not even necessarily passing judgment. Like, I get that. Like I said, I get upset when they change the graphics on Pop Tarts. I'm not even kidding, but I do understand that change is inevitable, and so I think they will either find new things to define themselves. My hope, not my expectation, is that they will find more richness in what they have and more appreciation for what they have, because that's loss. You can become aggressively aggrieved, and grief is healthy and inevitable, but you can
Mm-hmm.
become angry and turn inward with your loss, or you can discover a greater depth of appreciation for what remains, and those aren't mutually exclusive, but you can choose to focus, if that makes sense. So it was and you've seen this, all of us have seen this. Cody is contracting. He's becoming angrier and more aggrieved until like the very end, where I think he got a PR firm and said, good for her, I hope they have a great life. We'll see if that lasts.
Right.
I think they might have just caught him on a good day, to be honest. Sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes I just have a good brain day, and if you sat me down, I would be great about everything, whereas the next day I wouldn't have been. I don't know.
I think
But
they said
yeah,
to him, look, you need antidepressants. You needed them yesterday. Um, you can't play this whole show with the one note. It's not going to work, and it's going to come across as pretty awful.
I wondered
But
if that's what it was too.
what I will say to that, to your point, is I don't think I have never seen personally growth and expansion come from a place where and look, we all go through seasons of our lives, and you have to have the winter to get to the spring, or whatever it is they say. You know, I'm in kind of a dormant, kind of withdrawn stage of my life right now. But that's what grief does. That's what change does. That's what you can react to it however you need. It becomes infinitely harder when you experience the world as something that happens to you rather
Yeah,
than something that you have some agency in.
right,
And these two, everything happens to them.
right. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Cody's
I
all
think
about external solutions and external problems.
the nerve that he has to say that it's anyone's responsibility but his own to maintain a
Yeah,
relationship with his adult children is just wild.
ridiculous.
I'm mindful of time and battery. We started a little late, so we've run over, but I will not be forgiven if I don't do the inside the actor's studio question for you because I do this for
Right.
all of our guests.
Right.
What is your favorite word?
Garden.
What is your least favorite word? I've broken his brain.
No, it's so funny because, like, as a communication person, right, words that are only used to degrade other humans. I don't know if
Mm.
there's a single one because I could just probably get a couple subscribers if I just said moist.
I was gonna say.
Anything to do with cake, you're not going to get me to hate on that. Can I come back? Can I come back? I
Yeah,
think I've got
yeah,
an answer, but
absolutely.
yeah,
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
being healed or healing others.
Oh. What turns you off?
Selfishness in myself or others.
What is your favorite curse word?
Oh, fuck, easily.
Yeah.
That's the goat. Kidding me? You can do it good, bad, the great, the best and worst parts of life. You just everything, you know. It's beautiful.
What sound or noise do you love?
My kids laughing.
Yeah, that's always that question inevitably makes me cry. What sound or noise do you hate?
What sound or noise do I hate? What sound or noise do I hate? I don't like my own voice, but that's I don't hate it. I don't like when my kids cry when out of
Mm,
sadness. You know, if they're hurt, I can understand that, but when they have emotional pain, then that's just I find that really hard to handle.
yeah, I can relate to that. What profession, this is an interesting question for you. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Would I like to attempt?
Yeah,
I'm kind of
you
doing
don't
it, I
have to do
guess.
it.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
doing it. Podcasting, I always wanted to do that. I don't know if you could call it my profession, but it's could who knows? I don't want to be get too big for my britches or anything. I've always wanted to be a zookeeper.
I relate to that so hard.
Be outside in the fresh air, like engaging with
Yep.
nature in a way that is education. It's all my favorite things. It's being outdoors, it's animals, it's educating people, it's giving positive experiences to children, oftentimes for free. Like I just yeah, and I know people have issues with zoos for some for very good reasons. So I apologize if that irks people, but if you wave away any problematic aspects of that, especially yeah, then just no contest. That was my dream as a kid, too.
What profession would you not like to do or go back to doing?
So when I was in community college, I had a job working for a uniform factory where we would launder uniforms. And if y'all are squeamish, fast forward 30 seconds because this is what I did to put myself through college for a couple of years. I would get big bags of aprons, soiled aprons with like food stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There would inevitably be, shall we say, larvae of insects and everything. And I would sort through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bags of those to be cleaned for
Oh,
6 to 10 hours at a time, listening to my Walkman, listening to Fuel's album "Something Like Human," which if you know, you know. And I cannot listen to that music now because I'll puke. But you do what you got to do. Nobody can say I didn't like. And let me be very clear: no one should have to. Education should be accessible to anyone who wants it. But that's not what I'm saying. But no one can tell me I did not earn my education. Let me put it that way. You shouldn't have to earn it, but I did. I think.
yeah.
Yeah. So how about
Shit.
apron? That's my least favorite word. Apron.
Okay, perfect. Understood. Um, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear the God of your understanding say when you arrive? Oh.
Oh, damn it. Uh, um. I don't know if I can get it out. That your grandmother's here and she's very proud of you. Yeah, sorry, I didn't expect that. Uh,
Thank
yeah, my
you. Thank.
my grandma was my biggest fan, and my mom always believed in me. She always did, but really, like, I didn't graduate from high school. Nobody expected me to really amount to anything except for my mother and my grandmother. And my grandmother passed away before I finished college and didn't get to meet my grandkids. And I struggle with that. That's all. That's it. Sorry, it's kind of silly. Uh,
No, don't apologize.
uh,
I'm just trying to find a way to make your feelings about me, really. That's the only but it's pretty inconvenient, when
as you
you're
should.
so
As you should. This is your podcast.
No,
Like, get it
that was
together, you
really
stupid baby. Like, what's wrong with you? No, can I tell you, I
Thank
never used to cry. I've always been very overly emotional, but just a physiological reaction of crying. And weirdly, I hit 30. I don't know if it was just a physiological change in my body, but I would never ever cry. Like, we would watch sad movies in grade school and people would be crying, and I would just be like, I am sad, but I'm not doing that. And then I turned 30 and I was watching like a Hallmark commercial, just bawling. I don't know what it is. And I think it's good. I think it's healthier for me, frankly, to have that reaction.
Yeah, for me it was 34.
Yeah.
And I hate to tie it to becoming a parent, but that
Oh,
really
no, of
was a
course, of
huge
course.
part of it. I mean, like
Yeah.
that was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's something I feel so lucky. I had a grandmother like that too. See, I can make it about me. Um, but yeah, I heavily relate to that. And I think a big part of the reason why I don't want to have any more children is because my stepson was able to have this beautiful relationship with my dad. And he's at an age where he can remember it, and I'm
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. My mom lives with us, which is wonderful. It's wonderful that she does that. It's wonderful that that works because that would not be healthy for
yeah,
every
wow, that's
situation.
impressive.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
she's got her own space and we've made it work. But like my youngest have never known a day without her. And I'm so glad. And, she's just as much of a part of their day. Well, okay, not as much, but as much of a part of the day as like their siblings are. They're just part of her life. They can't comprehend not having her around, and so we're lucky again that that's a healthy dynamic. It wouldn't be with like my dad. Forget about it. I, yeah, no, thank you. But I'd rather go back to sorting soiled aprons than that. But yeah,
Oh
it's a good
boy.
situation.
Well, there is one more question I want to ask you. I
Sure,
love Would You Rather as an exercise.
me
I
too.
guess it comes from, being so uncomfortable all the time. I like to inflict discomfort. And Robin hates it when I do this. So, a sister wives, would you rather? Would you rather?
Good God. Okay. No, I'm fine. Whatever. What else can you do to me? Go for it. Why not? Sure. You want my
Would you
bank statements
rather?
too? What else do you want to do to me, Michelle? Like, you want to see some yearbook photos and dunk on them? Let's go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. You either have to go on a manosphere retreat
No, no. Okay,
and
no,
the
go ahead.
weekend, and it's just a weekend, but you do have to share a tent with Cody that you need to build together, and you're not allowed to help him at any stage. You have to just stay quiet while he
You are
gets
the
increasingly
worst person
frustrated.
I have ever met in my entire life. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Or or you have to go to you have to take Robin to the planetarium, just like we did when we were kids. And you have to try, and the lecture is at, let's say an 8th grade comprehension level. So you have to attend the lecture with her. And then afterwards, you have to go to Hobby Lobby with her and have her explain what she learned. And you're not allowed to interrupt or correct her while she is also working through a shopping list and constantly getting distracted by things that are on sale and stuff that she needs to buy. She will also say things like, "Oh, I ordered that from QVC, but I haven't opened it. But I meant to return the other one, so I need to buy this one." The only time that you're allowed to talk is when she asks you how something works. Like if it's a Ninja or a NutriBullet or something, you can explain to her how that
works. Who hurt you that you're doing this? Are you okay? I'm worried about you. Who could come up with this? What kind of Lex Luthor shit is this? Like this? Is this like Saw? Am I in goddamn Saw right now? Like that's what this feels like. I'm Carrie Elwes about to cut my goddamn leg off. Like this is horrific. Number 2, easily. Number 2, I would take, instead of going on a Manosphere retreat with Cody, I would take Robin on a 6-month study abroad to Mexico City and have to translate everything for her. I would have to hear her pronounce it Mexico, because she would. I would do anything. I would, and the entire time I have to periodically, like every hour on the hour, smack myself on the head with a hammer rather than go on a Manosphere retreat with Cody Brown. If you said go on a Manosphere retreat with Cody Brown or get hit by a car right now, I'd be like, Jesus, take the wheel. Beat me up, Mr. Fancy Man, with your nice vehicle, because I can't do it. Okay, I hate being on this podcast. I wish I had never done this. I'm very upset. I will never do this again. I might quit podcasting. I'm kidding. This was fun. I'm kidding. Nobody be upset. 5-star reviews only, or else I'm going to take it personally. Be nice to everyone. Okay.
I'm sorry I put that image in everyone's head, except I'm not sorry because there is a sort of, I think
I got to make new friends. I have got to make new friends. That's what I've learned from this experience. I'm just going to go to church. I'm going to hug my mom. I'm going to plant a tree, and I'm not going to podcast anymore because this is not great.
Yep, just touch grass. I mean, for me, I come by it honestly. I've been living in England for about 15 years now, and all of the humor,
you're so harsh.
Right? All of the humor here is based on creating discomfort in social situations.
Well, then I am hilarious.
Oh my word.
This was so fun. Can we do this every week? I'm not kidding. I was being facetious when I was complaining. This was so fun. Thank you.
I had the time of my life, and there will definitely be a part 2 if I have anything to say about it. And I'm more than happy to send you a Would You Rather every week.
I love that. I cannot wait to mark it as spam. It will be the pleasure of my life. And I hope to maybe collaborate too with, in my headcanon, as I call him, Robin Sr. That's what I call him, Robin Sr. and Robin Brown, Robin Jr. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Robin is gutted that he couldn't make it today, really and truly, but he
won't be.
No, because he has to deal with me. The Would You Rathers for Robin, I barely get through because we'll be in the car and I'll be like, would you rather have a penis that doubled as a periscope so you could like scope out the traffic way ahead? And he's like, nope, stop right there.
He's like surreptitiously putting his earbuds in without you know. Yeah, absolutely.
he's like, can we just have a blanket rule that none of these can be about my penis being having a dual function of something else? I'm like, no, that's not how it goes. But
If anything, I guess I admire your restraint with what you asked me. So
well, no, we're friends, but I would never I would never show you the flagrant level of disrespect I show my husband, the love of my life. But it's because I grew up with boys, and that's how we show we love each other. All right, I am going to show myself out. Dr. Adam, tell them where to find you if they're not already fans.
I don't even know anymore. Who am I? What am I doing? What just happened to me? No, my name. Yes, so my podcast, if it still exists by the time this airs, is called The Sister Wives Professor. I am much calmer and actually so my podcast it's kind of like it's a communication analysis and a reaction to Sister Wives. And I try to be positive and uplifting and try to be fair. I'm critical of the Browns where I feel like it's necessary. And if I don't, I'm not. And I'm also on Patreon at patreon.com/the Sister Wives Professor, where I do like solo topic deep dive. Like I just did relatively recently a 40-minute plus podcast on like the beginning of Robin entering the Brown family. And I kind of thread in some communication concepts, but it's all really accessible. It's not dry. It's just meant to kind of actually be kind of fun. And I cover things like Welcome to Plathville, Real Housewives. I just right now am working on an edit on a podcast someone requested where I reviewed something called MILF Manor. So if you think I'm upset now, wait until that airs. And so that'll go out on Patreon because the patron who requested it at the top tier very kindly agreed to let everyone hear it. So that'll be fun. So that stuff's available too. But if you just want to hear me talk about Sister Wives every Wednesday, I would be very, very grateful for your time. And I'm really, really grateful that you took the time out of your day to host me on your podcast. This was way fun. And thank you very much to all of your listeners, too, who stuck with me through this. I hope they enjoyed it.
We'll see you soon, everybody.